Welcome to Chef Richard's Kitchen. I'm Chef Richard Miller. Today we're going to make a side dish. And although this dish is usually something that's more traditionally made in the fall or the winter, it can be made anytime. We're going to make sweet potato casserole. And it used to be that it was made around the Thanksgiving, Christmas, and in the fall and winter, was simply because that's when the root crops were available, and that's basically what sweet potatoes are. But nowadays you can get them all year round, so there's no reason why this dish can't be made really anytime you really need a pretty elegant and decadent side dish. It'll go well with just about anything. In fact, it will go well with anything. And begin by taking about 4 good-sized sweet potatoes. Now the recipe calls for 3 cups, and of course I'll put the ingredients at the end of this video where I usually do. It takes about 3 cups, so I'm going to put in 4 good-sized sweet potatoes. There's 3 steps we're going to do to this. Number 1, we have to bake the sweet potatoes. Number 2, we have to make the filling for it. Number 3, we make the topping and then bake it again. So the first thing we're going to do is we need to bake these, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to bake them at 375 degrees for about an hour. Bake them pretty much the way you would a baked potato, but you want to check them. You want to poke them with a little knife and make sure that they're good and soft before you take them out. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in the oven at 375. We're going to leave them there for about 60 minutes. Then we're going to come by and we're going to check them and see if they're done. If they are done, we're going to make the filling. So let's go ahead and put them in the oven. Put them in the oven. I've set the timer for 60 minutes, and if you notice on the bottom of the pan, and I'm just using a steel baking pan, on the bottom of the pan, notice I put some foil. I've sprayed that with a little non-stick vegetable spray, and the reason is sweet potatoes are very high in starch and sugar content. What they will do is they tend to leak out at the ends, and if you don't have something to catch any of the leakings coming out or anything coming out of there, it's going to get in your oven and it's going to make a heck of a mess. So just go ahead and put them on something. I've also baked them on just the baking rack inside the oven. But if I do, I always have a pan with foil underneath it, so I don't have to spend a lot of time cleaning the oven afterwards. So let's just see what these do. We're going to check them again in about an hour, so I'll come back then. Don't go away. Okay, it's been an hour, so let's go ahead and check our sweet potatoes, and let's see how they are. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stick a paring knife in there and see how soft they are. If the knife doesn't go in there nice and smooth, if it meets any resistance, they need to go in just a little bit longer. So let's go to the stove and let's see how they do. Okay, when I went ahead and I poked the paring knife in there, it seemed like it was meeting up with a little resistance in a couple of them. So what I'm going to do is I want them extremely smooth, and I want them very soft. So I put them back in the oven and I set the timer for 15 minutes. We're going to go ahead and we're going to try them again after that. After that, I would imagine they're going to be fine. So let's see what they're like in 15 minutes. Alright, I left the sweet potatoes in for about another 10 minutes. They should be done by now. So let's go back over to the stove and let's poke them again. Let's see how they are. Much better. The knife slid in very clean, very easily. They're nice and soft. They're ready to go. So I'm going to let them cool here. Basically, I'm going to let them rest for about 5 or 10 minutes. And that's mostly because that way I'm not going to burn my fingers when I take them out of the skins. So I'm going to let them rest and we'll be right back. Okay, I took the sweet potatoes out of the oven. I let them rest for a little bit to cool off, mainly because I didn't want to burn my fingers too bad. Now, what I did was I went ahead and I slit them lengthwise down here and then opened them up and kind of, dropped them into this bowl here. Now, the reason I did that off camera is because I didn't want to, I didn't want you to see me, screaming when I got my fingers burnt. Now, it wasn't that bad, but I still didn't want you to see me. So anyway, let's go ahead, and we've got them all out of the skins. And you'll also notice on here how they did leak a little bit out of there. Now that's the reason why I put the foil on there, is so I don't have to take and clean that out of the oven. So I recommend you do the same thing. Okay, now it's time we're going to make the filling. So the first thing we want to do is we want to take 2 eggs and we want to whip them together. Now, if you're using a regular mixer with a paddle on there, you don't necessarily have to go through this step, because your paddle's going to beat them together. Well, I'm not. I'm just going ahead and using my real high-tech, pureer here, my potato masher. So I'm going to go ahead and take and pour these in just the way they are and the way they got beaten. All right. We're going to take a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a 1/2 cup of brown sugar, a 1/2 stick of butter, and a 1/2 cup of milk. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and beat them all together, or as in my case, just go ahead and mash them all together. Now, I could have gone ahead and brought up the old KitchenAid, put a paddle on there and I could have mixed this all together. But I wanted to show that there's absolutely nothing wrong whatsoever if you just go back to the old traditional tools that they used to use. In this case, a low-tech potato masher. It works just as well and you don't have to worry about going down and getting your mixer. So, all right, now let's go ahead and bring our baking pan over here, and we're going to go ahead now And we're going to put all of our filling right in our baking dish such. All right, spread it out so that it's pretty much even. And now it's time we're going to make the toppings. So let me go ahead and I'm going to shut the camera off here for just a second. And let me get set up so I can make the topping here. And then we'll go ahead and put it in the oven and we'll bake it. Don't go away. Okay, now it's time to make the topping for our sweet potato casserole. And what we want to do here is we want to take and we want to put a half cup of brown sugar, a half stick of butter, a teaspoon and a half of vanilla extract, and 2 packages of small packages, and they're supposed to be a cup, but this is actually probably 3/4 of chopped pecans. Now let's go ahead and mix these together. Now we want to take and we want to add about 1/3 of a cup of flour. Mix this up nicely here. Now you notice it's pretty firm here. But remember, when we put this on top of our sweet potato casserole and we bake it, all that brown sugar that's now pretty well solidified, is going to melt. And the flour is going to go ahead and absorb any excess of that. And it'll actually turn out real good on top of the casserole. Alright. Now, let's go ahead and put this on top. Okay, now that we have our topping made and put over the top of it, I'm going to put it in a 350-degree oven, and we're going to let it bake for about 35 minutes. All right, we'll see you in about 35 minutes. Okay, it's been 35 minutes in the oven. Our sweet potato casserole looks like it's pretty well done. So let's go ahead and bring it out. Let's let it rest for a few minutes, and then it's going to be time to plate. Well, let me go to the oven. Okay. Okay, here's our sweet potato casserole. It's bubbling right now. It looks very good. It looks very well done. And I'm going to let it sit for just a couple of minutes, and then we're going to go ahead and let's plate it. All right, here's our sweet potato casserole. Boy, that looks good. Let's go ahead and let's put just a little bit of garnish on it. And now remember, the one thing I always tell you to do, and I'm going to make sure that I do it, is taste it. Wow. That I would be honored to serve to any guest. That is really, really delicious. It's a good side dish. You can serve it anytime you want. It's extremely easy. Most of that is just cooking the sweet potato to start with. So go ahead, give it a try. Step outside your comfort area if you're not really familiar with something like this, and have fun. Because remember, that's what I always say about this cooking series. Cooking should be fun. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time. Take care. God bless.